Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sleeper Wire Show. Today, I am joined by some of the best in the business. I got George. You can follow him at BFTG Pod on Twitter. George, how in the heck are you, buddy?
Mike, I'm fantastic. I've been looking forward to doing the show all day long.
All day. I know. I get excited when I get to go with you guys because the other guy with us today is at FL Dr. Milbarge on Twitter. Jason, what is happening, man? How are we doing this evening?
Dude, it is almost time to break some news and break some fantasy hearts.
We are going to be breaking some fantasy hearts because this guy is going to be moving up in the ranks, I imagine. We got Jordan Howard just officially moved over to the Eagles. Can you guys believe this? Like that just happened 30 seconds ago.
Sometimes in this business, it's all about timing. And we hit the perfect time to record. We'll probably be the first show out there to even talk about this that's not ESPN.
Yeah, I mean, we all had a feeling Howard was going to get traded. There was been talks in Chicago that they were looking to trade him. It became more apparent when they signed Mike Davis to the contract they gave him. Howard was pretty inefficient last year. He was actually pretty much just terrible. As a guy who had him in a couple different leagues, he killed me week in and week out. Going over to the Eagles, I'll venture to say they are a better offense than Chicago. Their offensive line is definitely better, but I'm not a Jordan Howard fan. I think he's just a guy. I don't think he's much better than what they already had there. He's not moving up in my rankings. Not much anyway. He's going to be a solid RB2 for me.
See, and I think me and you are looking at this with the exact opposite eyes because I think Jordan Howard is a very talented back. I've always liked what he's done. I think a lot of the opportunity of last year got swindled away by that Tariq Cohen. So now he's not going to have that guy to worry about. Although I don't think that he's going to be going into a situation where he's going to be the only running back in town. I think that you'll see Philadelphia probably still approach it with a running back by committee. I mean, they've got a lot of really good young blood on that team that they want to see prove themselves. So I think you'll still see the Adamses out there getting work done. Corey Clement, Wendell Smallwood, I believe, has another year on his contract as well. So, I mean, they've still got a lot of clout in that backfield, and I think they'll use that. I don't think it's just his.
So
now they're even talking about what's his name might come back for another year, Darren Sproles. So there's still a boatload of running backs in that backfield.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Jay Ajayi, too. I believe he's still in talks with Philadelphia, isn't he?
Jordan Howard is going to be in that backfield with
Adams and Smallwood.
Yeah, he's going to be in that with Adams and Smallwood. Here's the thing. The Bears got away from what Howard does best. They brought in Nagy to be the head coach. He likes the run and gun, the deep pass, the passing to the backfield, or passing the running backs out of the backfield type of offense, and that doesn't fit Jordan Howard's strength. But in 2018, he only averaged 3.7 yards a carry. He still had 935 yards on what you would consider as a down year. 2017, 2016, both years over 1,000 yards. 2017, 9 touchdowns. In a standard scoring league, Jordan Howard just got more valuable. Now, he still can't catch out of the backfield, so I feel like, in PPR, half-point PPR, he's going to be a running back 2, but, man, I probably had him as a running back 3 before this, so, yeah, he moves up a little bit. Now, what this does to me, what this helps is Tariq Cohen and Mike Davis. Both of those guys got a bump.
Absolutely. Yeah, Tariq Cohen especially. I think he'll probably be the premier back there in Chicago now. I think he'll be the RB1 on the team. I believe he has the potential to finish as an RB1 now as well without Howard in the way. I mean, this guy is great out of the backfield. He catches the ball. I think this is a huge statement. And I mean, Mike Davis being there never hurts anything. That guy is also damn good. I mean, he's a good, solid bowling ball style running back. So I think Chicago will be fine losing Howard. I think you're right. I think they lost what makes him good. I think Philadelphia can find it, though.
I would like to be wrong. I just don't think I am.
Well, we know you are, George.
That's all that matters. God, it's great having the three amigos back together again.
That's it right there. That is it. We're going to go ahead and just kick off right into the other news. I mean, it's all kind of minor by comparison. Gronk and Jordy will be doing the same exact thing we're doing this year, and that's watching football on TV. But they will not be playing for their respective teams this year.
Oh, I was going to say, let me ask you this, Mike. Do you think at some point either one of these come back next year? Or do you think they both say they're retiring? Do you think they both stay retired? Or do you think at some point one or maybe even both come back?
You know, I saw reports where Gronkowski was talking about if they're in a situation where they need him, he might suit up in the middle of the season next year. I think Gronk might actually get persuaded by Tom Brady to play a little bit more football. Jordy Nelson, I don't really think that he was offered any jobs. I don't know if his retirement was
it wasn't voluntary.
Right. I don't think it was as voluntary as he's leading it on. Like, okay, guys, I'm done. I think his phone stopped ringing.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. It's just sad that Jordy Nelson, there was a good 3 or 4 year stretch where he was like the best fantasy wide receiver in the game.
Yeah, you wanted Jordy Nelson, and you wanted him bad.
Yeah, ever since he tore his ACL in the third preseason game a couple of years ago, after I had drafted him earlier that day, he's never been what he was. I think if he would have not torn his ACL, I honestly think we'd be talking about him potentially as a Hall of Fame caliber wide receiver, because I think he was in the midst of 3 phenomenal years, and I think he would have rung off 4, 5, possibly 6 great years and put him into that conversation. But it's just sad to see he went injured, then he got injured again, and then he got traded to the Raiders, or he signed with the Raiders rather, and now he's retired. It's just like the dude just went from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows.
Right. Well, and there's even a couple gaps in there where Aaron Rodgers was injured. So, I mean, Jordy Nelson's out there on the field, but the guy who throws him, that makes the compliment complete, isn't there with him. So, yeah, man, that's an unfortunate way to watch him go down, because he was so good when he was good.
So what's weird to me is we have Jordy Nelson retire, and we have the second best tight end of all time retire, and we're spending a whole lot of time on Jordy Nelson.
You call him the second best tight end of all time. I think he is. So I know we're talking about Tony Gonzalez as number 1, right? Like, that's who you're going to tell me is number 1?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I agree. But I feel like we're talking about 2 completely different players. To me, the thing that Gronk did better than anybody was dominate. That guy could be triple covered. It didn't matter. He would jump up, rip that football out of the air, bring it down. To me, he's in a class of his own. So I feel like they're both number 1 in that sense. Tony Gonzalez to me was just that outlet. He was the guy that was there when you needed him. He was so good at being a good receiver. He was more of a receiver to me than a tight end. Whereas Gronkowski, to me, made that tight end role pop, I guess is what I would say.
George?
Well, so I did a little digging into this because Jason and I had a little mini debate earlier. Both players, first off, are fantastic. Tony Gonzalez definitely has the longevity, and I think that's what Jason's argument is going to be. He only missed 2 games his entire career, I think.
Hey,
Dude has...
What is the best ability?
Availability, of course.
Okay, keep going.
Okay. Gronk only played 9 seasons, but during his 9 seasons that he played, he had 521 receptions, 7,861 receiving yards, 28 100-yard games, 79 touchdowns. When he played, he absolutely dominated like nobody's business. If you look at the first 9 years of Tony Gonzalez's career, which Gronk only played 9 years, Tony G, his first 9 years, he played 141 games. He had almost 1,000 yards receiving more. He only had 23 100-yard games, so Gronk had more 100-yard games. And he only had 62 touchdowns. Gronk also had more touchdowns. Gronk, like I said earlier, played 45 games. Tony Gonzalez played 62. Tony Gonzalez's numbers for the longevity of his career are amazing. They're absolutely amazing. What he did his credentials, that they are second to one. They are only second to Gronk.
So, George, here's where I'm going to shut you down. All right?
Go for it.
Okay. So you say more receptions in 9 years.
Yep.
Here's the thing. So if you average out Gronk's career, he averaged 12.5 games a season. We just said best availability is availability. He was only available in all 16 games twice. Right there, that's a huge knock on him. Because you have to take into account his injuries. You have to take into account that he wasn't on the field a lot when his team needed him. And
actually, that's not true.
And for fantasy,
that's not true.
That's absolutely true. He averaged 12 games a season. That means he was not on the field. That means he was
you said he's not on the field when his team needs him.
Correct.
Here's Tony Gonzalez's playoff numbers for his career. 41 targets, 30 receptions, 286 yards, 4 touchdowns. Here's Gronkowski's playoff numbers for his career. Now remember, Tony Gonzalez played almost 6 years more than Rob Gronkowski.
I'll let you
Gronkowski had 130 targets. He had 81 receptions. He had 1,163 yards and 12 touchdowns. You said Gronkowski was not there when his team needed him. When did his team need him? In the playoffs, and he was there.
Hey, George.
Oh.
Hey, George. Let me ask you a question.
Yes, Jason.
Who does Gronk play for?
It does not matter.
It does matter.
It absolutely does. He plays for the Patriots. It does not matter.
Can you tell me?
Are you saying that the Kansas City
what you said?
Stop arguing.
Are you saying the Kansas City Chiefs teams that Tony Gonzalez played with were bad?
Yes.
Because they were not. Are you saying the Atlanta Falcons teams that he played with were bad?
George, how many?
They absolutely were not.
George, how many playoff games did Tony Gonzalez play?
Jason.
I'm asking you a question. No, I'm asking you a question. You came up with a stat.
Okay.
He had 40 targets and 30 receptions. To me, that says how many. So how many playoff games did Tony Gonzalez play?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe the correct number is 7 or 8.
7 or 8. How many did Gronk play?
If I'm not mistaken, I believe the correct number is 15.
That's probably not correct.
No, that is absolutely correct because Gronk missed all of 2 seasons in his 9 years.
So let me.
He didn't play in the playoffs in 2 of the seasons, 2 of the 9 seasons that he was playing.
How many seasons was he in the playoffs? 7 of 9?
Every one.
7 of 9. Okay, so I guarantee if we average out Tony Gonzalez to the amount of times that Gronk was in the playoffs, they would be close to equal. But let's work on averages because you say the first 9 seasons. Let's average out how many seasons it would take Gronk to catch Tony Gonzalez. It would take him 14 seasons at the rate he caught passes at 12 games per season. 14 seasons to catch up in receptions. By the way, Tony Gonzalez is second all time, only to Jerry Rice.
I get that.
For yards, it would take Gronk 9 more seasons at his average of 12 games a season. 9 more seasons, full seasons of Gronk to catch Tony Gonzalez.
Can I ask you a question?
It will take 11 seasons, 11 more seasons for him to catch Tony Gonzalez in first downs. 11
How many seasons? So if we want to do averages, if Gronkowski played as many seasons as Tony Gonzalez did, how many more seasons would Tony Gonzalez need to play before he actually caught up to Gronkowski in touchdowns?
5. He'd need 5 more.
5 more. How many more seasons would he need to catch up to him in total 100-yard games?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't check the 100-yard games.
But it would be 7.
But I do.
7 more seasons.
Guess who averaged more per game?
Jason,
guess who was
yards
per game? Let me ask you this one final question, George.
Okay, and then I want to ask you one final question
as well. Take away Matt Ryan. Name me 2 more Tony Gonzalez quarterbacks.
I can't because I didn't look into it. Honestly, I don't know who the quarterbacks were for Kansas City.
Oh, you mean they're not they're not Hall of Fame?
I don't know. I don't know who they are.
They're not first ballot Hall of Fame greatest quarterback of all time? Jerry Rice is the GOAT of all times for all players, correct? Because he has so many more receptions than everybody else. But number 2 is a tight end, and his name is Tony Gonzalez.
I could see both points. I was just going to let that simmer. We're just going to go ahead and move on. I think he is the greatest tight end position, but I can definitely see why you would call Tony Gonzalez the best tight end because he has the numbers to back it. We got Julio's contract extended. It's going to be some time before we start seeing some details on this. Any surprises there, guys? I mean, it seems like Atlanta wants him to retire there.
That's a no shock to me. You don't let somebody like Julio Jones walk if you don't have to. He's literally, him and Matt Ryan are that franchise. They're both the face of the franchise. I'm not shocked at all that they extended him.
No, and it sounds like it's going to be a good bit of money. But with the way Cap is now, it's probably a lower percentage of dollars to his cap than some of the other big name wide receivers, and worth every penny.
Oh, absolutely.
So we got new pass interference rules. That's another big thing. Coaches can now review pass interference, whether it's offense, whether it's defense, even if it's a no call. Will this change anything besides that Saints game? Will we get to go back in time for that, or?
I think it'll change a little bit. I mean, you imagine it would have to, right? I imagine that you would have to think it's going to change something. I mean, there's plays every game that are missed for pass interference and whatnot. The way that the offense is geared now in the NFL, I can definitely see quarterbacks taking shots deep and, there being a hold or a grab or something like that is just missed by the refs. And the coaches are going to be like, hey, listen, let's challenge that. We have an opportunity to get, an extra 40, 50 yards on that one play. So I imagine it'll change a lot. The good thing I like about, though, is it still falls under the old challenge rules where you get one. If you get it right, you get another. But if you get it wrong in the first half or the second half, it costs you the timeout. So those don't change. But I think it's definitely going to have an effect on the game.
Yeah, so I think some people are worried about Hail Marys at the end of the game. Can you, will those be reviewable? And it's going to be reviewable from the booth. But I just don't see the booth reviewing Hail Marys just because they're judged differently. There's probably pass interference on every Hail Mary, right? And they almost never get called. Anytime you can take what the human element of officiating out of a game and give replay a chance, in my opinion, it's a good thing. We'll see how it affects games next year.
I think that's going to be a big deal. And I think, like you guys were saying, as long as it makes it a little bit more fair, I'm okay with waiting a couple extra seconds. One of my complaints is let's get the call quicker coming out of the booth.
Yeah, maybe they'll take something from the AAF and actually start allowing the camera up into the booth where they do the review at. And so we can get the officials' logic when they're making the call. That'd be kind of entertaining.
We got Isaiah Crowell signing a 1-year deal with the Raiders, $2.5 million. That's probably bad news for Doug Martin, eh?
Who?
Doug Martin, the muscle hamster.
I don't recognize that guy.
Back of Oakland.
I don't know. Doug Martin hasn't been good in 7, 8 years, 9 years. Was he ever really even good? I know he had two good seasons.
A couple weeks at the end of last season.
Yeah, what was there? There was nothing there.
They also signed Brandon Marshall, the linebacker from Denver, for a 1-year, $4.1 million deal. Raiders making some moves, man. Raiders are going to be probably pretty nasty next year, I think. What are you guys thinking? I don't think they're going to be Kansas City competitive, but I think they'll be second in the division.
I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, I have a theory in the NFL, and you see it a lot. So, a couple years ago, Eagles put together a dream team, and, when the Dolphins signed Dante Culpepper that offseason, they made a ton of moves. I have a theory in NFL, that much volatility on your roster is not good for a team. So even though they put a bunch of talent on the field, they haven't played together, they haven't gelled. You don't know that Carr is going to be able to get Antonio the ball where he needs it if they're just going to waste Tyrell Williams. And I don't trust John Gruden to take all of that talent, but all of those locker room personalities and make them gel. So I like the moves because they're all good players. I worry about the volume of moves and who's at the top to make it all work together.
Yeah, I still think they're going to finish. There's potential they could finish last in their division. I'm going to have Kansas City at number 1. I'll have the Chargers at number 2. And then with Oakland, the moves they've made, and Denver, they're real close. I think I'm going to give a slight edge to Denver, but it's not much. I think the Raiders probably win 5 to 6 games this year.
I see Oakland is 3 and Denver is 4. And the only reason
it's real close. I can go with that. I can see that. I'll see your Joe Flacco and raise your Derek Carr.
Like I said, I feel like this is going to be some pretty good moves. I think that the Raiders are going to be. I just feel like they're going to be kind of a force to be reckoned with over the next few years. they're starting to make moves in the right direction anyways. But at the end of the day, you're right. They still do have Derek Carr. So we're going to go ahead and hop into the next segment that we're going to talk about is the mock draft that we had last night. We got together with a few of the fans and we had a good time, man. It was a lot of good chats, a lot of good discussions about some players. George, we're just going to go ahead and let you take this over, bud. What did you think about that draft last night?
The draft last night was fun. It's something I think we need to do more of. We're probably going to start doing, one mock draft a week. After the draft, I know you two gentlemen will be ready to be firing up Mock Metal Monday. Cannot wait for that. But the one we did yesterday was fantastic. We had myself, Mike, you were there. Prophet Hoos was there. The professor, Chris, was there. And then we had a bunch of fans from the Sleeper app. Without further ado, let's go over the first 6 picks, and I'll get your guys' opinion on it. First off the board was Ezekiel Elliott. Then Professor Chris took Saquon Barkley, followed by Christian McCaffrey. And then we had a wide receiver run with Odell, DeAndre Hopkins, and Devontae Adams by Dirty Jobs. Jason, what do you think about the first 6 picks? Anything stand out? Anything surprise you?
Well, and Mike and I, Dirty Jobs Mike here, and I have talked about it before the show, but it surprised me a little bit that he took Devontae Adams instead of Alvin Kamara. And as he mentioned before the show, he wasn't quite ready for the start of the draft, and that auto-picked Devontae Adams for him, or it would have been Alvin Kamara at 6. But other than that, I am surprised a little bit, based on position scarcity, that Odell Beckham Jr. and DeAndre Hopkins went ahead of guys like Kamara and Melvin Gordon.
And Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley is the one that really shocks me there.
So I am seeing, and we're not talking about the back half yet, but I'm seeing more and more of Todd Gurley going late.
Yeah, a lot of people are scared of that knee, the arthritis.
I'm telling you right now, people late in that draft are getting a gift in Todd Gurley.
They are. Speaking of Gurley, so we'll go in the back half of the draft. At number 6 was Zach Roberts. He went to Alvin Kamara, followed by mine and Mike's boy, Melvin Gordon. Larry Soule at 1-9 took Todd Gurley, which kind of had me in the hurts because I was next, and I ended up with Michael Thomas. I was really hoping to get Gurley there. Followed by Joe Mixon, and then bringing up the rear was Prophet Hoos, and he took Mike Evans. Mike, what do you think?
I just feel like that's too early for Mike Evans. I like his potential. I like the fact that he has Bruce Arians coaching him now. But at the end of the day, I'm still just not sold on that guy going in the first round. Although, swinging back to the second round is also another option. So it's kind of a moot point. But I just feel like people like Julio Jones, I feel like I like Juju Smith-Schuster over him. I like Antonio Brown over Mike Evans. There's a lot of people I like over Mike Evans. That seemed a bit early for me. The rest of those seem to make logical sense. Like Todd Gurley going as late as he did. Wow, that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, like I said, I was really hoping to get Gurley at 110, but he went right before me. Took Michael Thomas. I've got no complaints. Trust me. I love Michael Thomas. I feel like the first round is, you're splitting hairs. Joe Mixon creeped into the first round in this draft. That kind of surprised me. I thought for sure Le'Veon Bell would move back up to the first round now that he's with the Jets. I understand, there's question marks about his role, his usage, that offensive line, whatnot, but I still think he's a first-round draft pick in most fantasy drafts. As Mike mentioned, in the second round, Julio Jones was the first person off the board with Hoos, followed by David Johnson. I went with Dalvin Cook, Juju Smith-Schuster, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown. Jason, anything there that sticks out?
So I'm honestly opposite of Mike here. Juju Smith-Schuster is down on my list. I won't have him anywhere because he's going at 2-4. He's going at the front half of the second round. He played well without Antonio Brown in limited sample size last year. How many more double teams Juju's going to have to see? How much less he's going to get of the slot role, and how much he's going to have to go outside. Honestly, he's got talent. I just don't know how he's going to handle being the guy. So Juju is high enough on these boards that I won't be taking him. David Johnson going ahead of Le'Veon Bell. I guess I get it. They're hoping David Johnson from 2 years ago comes back. I probably would take Dalvin Cook and Le'Veon Bell and James Conner and Nick Chubb, a bunch of running backs before I take David Johnson as well. I'm probably out on a limb there with that, but, David Johnson last year was okay.
Yeah, he finished, Dave Johnson got a lot of touchdowns. That's what saved his fantasy season. He wasn't involved in the passing game. I think there's a lot with the new coaching regime in there that is optimistic that they'll use him the way that they used him 2 years ago. So in the back half of the second round, Dirty Jobs took James Conner, which, by the way, I love that pick. Goodrich 12 went with Nick Chubb. At 2.9, we had our first quarterback off the board, Mr. Patrick Mahomes. That actually kind of surprised me. Followed up with Travis Kelce, Keenan Allen, and then Tyreek Hill at the back end of the second round. Mike, what'd you think about Tyreek Hill going to the back end of the second round?
Right now, I think that's a little scary. I think that's a sketchy pick. I don't know if I would be making that myself. I need to know what the future is for that guy before I start, wasting my first 2 rounds. I mean, I'm hearing everything from it's nothing to he's never going to play football again.
Yeah, I agree. In the second round, when you still staring at guys like A.J. Green, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, T.Y. Hilton, Adam Thielen, Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, I mean, I feel more comfortable taking all of those guys right now over Tyreek Hill. And listen, I get it. Tyreek Hill was a top 5 wide receiver last year. I'm not discrediting what he's done, but the risk right now that is associated with taking him in the second round, when there's so much other talent there that is comparable, that comes with less risk, I just can't do it. Jason, what say you?
I mean, it's a high risk, high reward, right? You either get a guy who's a top 5 wide receiver, or you get a suspension and he never plays. So it really, especially at this point in the season or the off season, it's a risk, and maybe only one you do in a mock draft, in March. And then as we know more as the off season progresses, I have a feeling that if J Barb 666 had to make this pick 2 months from now, he might shy away from it. But it's kind of an easy move to pick in March when you're just looking at talent.
Mike, what did you think about Patrick Mahomes going that early?
I mean, I think it's appropriate. I think that guy's going to be one of those stellar quarterbacks for you. He's going to have a year of tape on him, but that guy just doesn't seem to slow down. He gets that look in his eye. He throws. I like it. I think it's a good pick.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to throw for over 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns again. I think he'll probably be around 35 to 40 touchdowns and somewhere around 4,500 yards, which, listen, that's still a phenomenal year. Not discrediting that at all. That's a fantastic year. He will carry you, no doubt about it. But I'm one of those people that I'll never draft a quarterback that early. So it sticks out to me. Starting at the beginning of the third round, we had our second tight end off the board, Zach Ertz, followed by A.J. Green, Amari Cooper, Sony Michel, and Stephon Diggs, and then Kerryon Johnson. To you, Mike. What were you thinking when we took Kerryon there, ahead of guys like Fournette, Aaron Jones, Geis, Marlon Mack?
Kerryon to me just has the opportunity. There's not a whole lot of people left in old Detroit. I mean, they seem to be just going down in shambles over there. So I feel like he's going to be a guy that comes out, gets a lot of activity. I know there's a lot of reports that he's going to be limited to start things out. I'm not too worried about it. I think he's such a dominant back that he will be able to take over that backfield again. And you have to run the guy a lot to get him out there. I mean, that's his skill. It's kind of like, most of these other guys like Adrian Peterson. You give them the rocks a certain amount of times, they're going to make stuff happen with that football. And I think he's no different. I think Kerryon Johnson will be the guy that comes out, deserves that football. I think Leonard Fournette scares me. There's a lot of things that scare me about him. And Darius Geese, same thing, guys, whatever. Aaron Jones, I like that situation a lot, but I still feel like I got the better guy there.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, Jason, is there any thought or you think there's any truth to the fact that Matt Patricia is the coach in Detroit, and he comes from the Bill Belichick style of coaching, and that the way Bill Belichick has treated his running back for years, that Kerryon Johnson may fall into that same type of situation?
if Matt Patricia is trying to be Bill Belichick, he's doing a god-awful job at it, because the one thing, even though Bill Belichick uses his running backs in that way, the thing that Bill Belichick does is takes his best players and puts them in the best position to win. You saw that towards the end of last year where they started using Sony Michel more than, say, James White. And when he has a dominant player, he relies on him. For example, Gronk. He had a dominant player, he relied on him. So I don't see that in Matt Patricia, because Matt Patricia did almost the opposite. He took a way worse running back in Blunt and used him too much and didn't put it on Kerryon Johnson. If you want to talk about the strength of Bill Belichick, it's not that he like takes 4 or 5 running backs and uses them. He takes those running backs and uses them at their strengths, and he has good players to do it with. He doesn't take trash and try and trot them out. So that's the problem with that Lions and Matt Patricia. And listen, I am a little worried about Kerryon Johnson's touches with Matt Patricia saying he's going to limit them, because like right now it's all coach speak where every coach is talking about how great their players are, and with Matt Patricia that's like the exact opposite of what he's doing. Now he didn't come out and say Kerryon Johnson's bad, but he did come out and say, hey, I'm going to limit his touches. Why? I love Kerryon Johnson as a talent, but very, very worried about Matt Patricia and his coaching style.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking as well. Kerryon's got all the talent in the world. We seen it when there was no LeGarrette Blount last year. He flourished when given the opportunity. But I'm just afraid that Matt Patricia is just not going to give him that opportunity. And that's what kind of scares me. I think he's going to – there's potential to where he could fall into that Bill Belichick style of coaching where – and you were 100% correct. Belichick puts his players in positions where they can excel and uses them to their strength. But I also got to remember that it's only Patricia's first year there, and he hasn't really had a chance to turn over his roster to get the guys that he actually wants. So that does kind of concern me. Hopefully, we're both wrong and Kerryon gets the workload we feel he can handle and we feel he deserves. But I agree, Patricia there does kind of scare me.
Listen, if Kerryon gets the workload, he's a steal in the 3rd round.
Absolutely. Absolutely a steal. At 3-7, the back half of the 3rd round, went Leonard Fournette, George Kittle, Andrew Luck, Brandon Cooks, Aaron Jones, and Cooper Kupp by Prophet Hoos. Anything there, Jason, you see that makes you scratch your head or wonder about?
Well, again, quarterbacks for me, Andrew Luck's too early. It's 3-9. The next quarterback didn't come off the board till round 5. And that just kind of tells you where quarterbacks should be. So although I do think he should be the number 2 quarterback taken off the board this year, 3-9 is just too early for a quarterback. And then the other thing, and you and I talked about, I think you got hit with the time's up.
I auto drafted Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, so I like Brandon Cooks as a wide receiver, but there's a guy taken second in the 4th round that I would have taken ahead of him, which is T.Y. Hilton. And we talked about that. You and I talked about that previously before the show, but I would have taken T.Y. Hilton before I took Brandon Cooks there, and so that's probably the only other one I see there. Now, Cooper Kupp scares me a bit because he's coming off an injury, but when he's healthy, he's a stud. So in the 3rd round, I guess I'm good with the risk, especially at the last pick in the 3rd round.
Yeah, and I agree. I also would have taken T.Y. Hilton over Brandon Cooks, but I auto-drafted. It was Brandon Cooks, and I wasn't going to stop the draft and go back and grab my guy because everybody knows I'm a T.Y. guy. So, Mike, you got anything?
No, I agree. I think I actually like Kupp over Cooks. I like Hilton over Cooks, and I like Thielen over Cooks. So I feel like that's the one that really stuck out to me as well.
Yep. Nope. I completely agree. Starting off in the 4th round, Hoos, I know you're listening. You got some splaining to do. Hunter Henry in the 4th round, first pick of the 4th round? Don't get me started. Listen, I love Hunter Henry. He is not a 4th round pick. I understand it's a mock draft. I understand, he's going to be completely healthy coming into the season. I know how dominant he was as a rookie. He's still not a 4th round pick, Hoos. Who's? He's not. He's not a 4th-round pick. Don't do that to you. Don't do that to the people.
I disagree.
Well, let me finish up this first part of the 4th round, then I will let you explain. So, as we know, Who's took Hunter Henry 4-1, followed by T.Y. Hilton. I took Adam Thielen. Larry Soule took Kenny Golladay, followed by Darius Geis and DJ Moore to round out the first half of the 4th round. Mike, the floor is yours. Explain Hunter Henry in the 4th.
So the way the tight end landscape has been shaping up over the past couple of years, you really just aren't getting anybody good. And I mean, for me, Hunter Henry has the volume. They don't have Williams. They don't have either Williams actually anymore. So I mean, you got Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, and Hunter Henry. I mean, that's basically all that's left over there. So I don't know.
They still have Mike Williams.
Mike Williams, yeah. I thought Mike Williams actually got traded, but neither here nor there. I mean, he's just such a dominant threat on the inside. To me, you're not going to get another opportunity at a good tight end, and he's probably the most speculative ad, and I don't think he lasts. I mean, I think I'm taking him in that round right there. So a little later, obviously, because I'm
Mike,
later.
What do you think his ADP is right now, Hunter Henry?
I would have to guess probably 7 to 8, somewhere in there, 7, 8, 7.
Yes. 8. His ADP right now, according to Fantasy Football Calculator, is round 7, pick 12.
But I mean, you got to know who you're drafting with. And I mean, Hoos knows I love Hunter Henry too. I was going to grab him before Hoos could have had an opportunity. So to me, that's a great grab.
Yeah, so here's my problem. I guess if a Hunter Henry is his guy and he knew you would take him, I mean, were you taking him in the 4th round?
Probably 5th, but yeah.
Okay, so you would have taken him before he came back, and I guess if Hoos knows that, I understand. But my problem with it is, at that point, I've got 3 tight ends still on the board that I have ranked higher than Hunter Henry. I've got Evan Ingram, O.J. Howard, and Eric Ebron, not that order, still on the board and available to be taken. None of them were taken until the 6th round, 6-2 with Evan Ingram. All of those guys I have higher than Hunter Henry. And listen, we can talk about how much talent Hunter Henry used to have, but it's been a long time since we've seen it on the field. The only one that's seen Hunter Henry play well on the field in a couple of years is Stephen A. Smith. So we just haven't seen it from him. Look, he could come back and be amazing and be what we all hoped he would be. But we're talking about being a little bit risk averse, and 4th round is still kind of early to take on injury risks on a position where, you still have good talent, premium talent there and going later. So Hunter Henry is confusing to me.
The part that really confused me about that pick, honestly, is if you look at what Hoos did the first 3 rounds, I love it. Mike Evans, Julio Jones, Cooper Kupp. That's fantastic. But he needed a running back. He needed a running back bad at that point. Darius Geis, Marlon Mack, Derrick Henry, Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman, Mark Ingram, Rashard Penny, Tariq Cohen, Phillip Lindsay, Damian Williams all came off the board after he picked Hunter Henry. He ended up, and we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, he ended up with his first running back off the board being Kareem Hunt, who's suspended for 8 games. So right. I don't doubt Hoos. I know how he feels about Kareem Hunt, and I know he knows what he's doing, but just looking at it, as the draft unfolded in the way it went and what he ended up getting, I think he would have been better served to take a running back, any of those running backs at that point, at the 4th one, and then he probably honestly could have come back and gotten Hunter Henry maybe in the 5th. If not in the 5th, he could have got Evan Ingram, O.J. Howard, or Eric Ebron, who came well afterwards, and I think he would have been fine at the tight end position. I don't think there's that much disparity between Hunter Henry, O.J. Howard, Evan Ingram, and Eric Ebron coming into this year.
So the only other thing in this batch of 6 from 4-1 to 4-6 that I see that I'm not a big fan of is DJ Moore. And I know DJ Moore, this is right around where he's ranked. He is a 4th round talent via his ADP. I'm not a big fan of Cam Newton-led wide receivers. We've talked about it before on the show. Steve Smith was the last fantasy-relevant wide receiver they had, and that's been a long time. So DJ Moore's got the talent, but that system does not flow through wide receivers, and Cam Newton does not get wide receivers points. So, to me, even though his ADP is at 4.6, I don't want anything to do with DJ Moore.
I agree.
Same.
Yeah, I think all three of us are saying we're all very low on DJ Moore, and it's for the exact reasons Jason laid out. It's more Cam Newton. He just doesn't use his wide receivers to the extent where they're valuable fantasy commodities. He just doesn't.
Sidebar too. We skipped it in the news, but did you know that Cam Newton is not having sex for like several weeks, trying to heal his shoulder?
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing.
All I want to know is he's either doing sex very, very wrong or very, very right if he needs to rest his shoulder.
I'm taking the Cam Newton effect as well. I need to rest my shoulder. Going into the back half of the fourth here, as always, Mike led us off with another one of my favorite players right now, Marlon Mack, followed by Corey Davis, then Robert Woods, then Derrick Henry, then Devonta Freeman, and at the end of the fourth round was Jarvis Landry. Looking at those picks, the one that I really don't understand, and maybe it's because I'm low on him, and I've always been low on him, is Corey Davis. For the same reasons Jason outlined with DJ Moore. It's more of a Marcus Mariota thing than anything. Corey Davis, listen, he's a talented player. He can be very good. I just don't think Mariota knows how to use his wide receivers to the extent to where you can justify taking Corey Davis in the fourth round. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I like Corey Davis. I think he's a great talent. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like this is a guy you should be dropping around the 10th, 11th round, somewhere down in there. I mean, to me, it's more justifiable anyways if I'm grabbing it that late. He's got good games, but not enough to where I'm picking him that early.
Yeah, I'm looking at the players that came after him and where I would have him tiered at. And I feel like in the 8th round is where he probably should have went, with the likes of James Washington, Kiki Kuti, Sterling Shepard, Robbie Anderson, Julian Edelman, Anthony Miller, Tyler Lockett, Marvin Jones. It's just all those guys went in the 8th round, and I think it's because they're all upside guys. With the exception of Doug Baldwin. I don't think he's an upside guy, but I think all those other guys are upside guys, and I'm just not a fan of Corey Davis. He's got great upside, but I think in the 4th round, it's just way too early to grab him.
Yeah, and with the news coming out that Tennessee wants to build their team around Derrick Henry finally, I'm with you guys. I like Corey Davis. I was high on him last year. I stuck with him way too long. It's, as long as Marcus Mariota is the quarterback and that offense didn't improve all that much and they're going to revolve around Derrick Henry, there's just limited touches for Corey Davis. There's not enough targets. They're not accurate enough targets either. So, I put him more in line with a Christian Kirk or Cortland Sutton, less than with, James Washington QT. I'd have him a little bit higher, maybe, around a Golden Tate. But, yeah, that's still 2 rounds away from where he's taken here.
Starting off the beginning of the 5th round was Tevin Coleman, followed by Mark Ingram, Baker Mayfield, Rashard Penny, Deshaun Watson, and then I would say it's probably the most hyped player this offseason, at least recently, is Mr. Larry Fitzgerald role himself, Chris Godwin. Was taken by Mike in the middle of the 5th, excuse me. What do you think about that, Jason?
You mean specifically Chris Godwin?
Or the round. Is there anything that sticks out? Anything that scratched your head? Anything you liked?
So Baker Mayfield's getting a lot of hype. Him going ahead of guys like Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers in a 1 quarterback, non-dynasty is a little head-scratching to me. He had a good season last year. By all accounts, he should have a good season this year. But what I'm getting at is Baker Mayfield had what you portion of a first season, and he played very well. He could very well be better than he was last year with these new weapons and these new targets.
He most likely will be better than he was last year.
Also, very possibly could fall flat on his face. And meanwhile, you've let guys like Deshaun Watson, who's done it for 2 years now, or Russell Wilson, who's done it for multiple years, or Aaron Rodgers, all go off the board because you're buying in a Baker Mayfield hype. I'm just saying.
If your argument is against Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, and Russell Wilson, no argument for me at all. I completely agree with taking Deshaun Watson ahead of Mayfield, Russell Wilson ahead of Mayfield, Aaron Rodgers. No problem. No problem with any of those before Mayfield. Mike, you got anything to add?
Not really. I mean, I kind of agree with the Baker Mayfield take. I think I like a few other quarterbacks over him, but I am also admittedly on that hype train too. I'm excited to see them Browns next year.
Starting at the beginning of the back half of the 5th round, Zach Roberts, he started out with Tariq Cohen, who I think we will make a point to talk about here in just a minute, followed by Philip Lindsay, Allen Robinson. I took Damian Williams, followed by Mike Williams, and then Hoos, as we discussed earlier, took Kareem Hunt at 5-12. So that was the first 5 rounds.
Well, so the Tariq Cohen on 5-7 pick looks a lot better today than it did yesterday.
It looks a lot better today than it did 2 hours ago.
Yeah. So the Tariq Cohen, when we drafted here, Tariq Cohen was sharing with Howard. So 5-7 to me was a little early on Tariq Cohen. I would have picked Philip Lindsay and Damian Williams ahead of him. The pick in this, I'm not a big fan of, is Kareem Hunt. He's suspended at least 8 games. So who's his first running back off the board wouldn't be playing until at least week 9, maybe week 10 with the bye. Can't have you can't have your first running back gone for more than half the season.
Yeah, he's literally going to miss, almost 3/4 of the fantasy season? No, I mean, that's about half, a little over half. That's brutal. And I feel like I'm picking on Hoos, and I don't mean to. His team, I honestly, I love the first 3 picks, but from there, I think he went downhill. He went with, and I'll read through his team real quick. Mike Evans, Julio Jones, Cooper Kupp, love it. Hunter Henry, not that big of a fan. Kareem Hunt, not that big of a fan. Chris Carson, while I get that pick there, you'd have to think Rashard Penny is going to become more of a factor this year than he was last year. Lamar Miller, okay, that's not bad. We don't know if he's going to keep that job. Latavius Murray in the 8th round. Listen, I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't think Latavius Murray is going to have a fantasy impact this year. I think he's going to get 5 to 6 touches a game, and that's it. I think Alvin Kamara is going to be the man in New Orleans, just like he was the first 4 games last year while Mark Ingram was suspended. So I'm not a huge fan of Latavius Murray. I like Mitch Trubisky. Ronald Jones is interesting with the new regime coming into Tampa. I don't know if Ronald Jones is going to get a chance or not. If he does and he can somehow improve over what he did last year, the opportunity's there, but I still tend to believe that their future running back on that team is not on the team. He got Austin Hooper, Ben Roethlisberger, and then I actually like the Peyton Barber at the last pick. I think Peyton Barber, if they don't do anything, has an opportunity there to be the running back in that backfield again over Ronald Jones.
And they just signed him to an extension, so that's not a bad pick.
No.
So the back end of this draft, I don't put a lot of stock in because everybody knew we were talking about the first 5 rounds, and then a lot of people bailed. So the back end of this draft, I'm not too concerned with. When we're talking about Hoos's team in specific, again, the first 3 wide receivers are great. Kareem Hunt being off the board, he's not playing for 9 games. Chris Carson, I like Chris Carson. I'm surprised he went after Penny in this draft, but when he took Hunter Henry, Philip Lindsay was still on the board.
Geis, Marlon Mack, Derrick Henry. I said him earlier. Yeah. Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman, Mark Ingram. I mean, there was a bunch of solid running backs, high end RB2s who will give you some RB1 weeks.
Yeah, I can agree with that. The thing I really take away from that, I mean, like Kareem Hunt is your RB1, he's your RB3. If you're going to grab this guy, that's the best position I think you can hope for. Now, will he be an RB1 that'll help you to that championship? Sure, absolutely. But are you going to get to the championship if he's your RB1? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you need to have something solid. So if you're planning on taking Kareem Hunt and stashing him, you can honestly, in my opinion, you can't do it unless you have 2 running backs already on your team. I agree 100% with Mike. You can't have him as your RB1. If you do, you're going to be screwed. You can't have him as your RB2. He's missing way too much time. And then when he comes back, he's sharing the backfield with Nick Chubb. So it's not like he's coming back and the backfield is just going to be handed to him. No, he's going to have to earn the opportunity to play. And if Chubb is balling out, I don't know if Kareem Hunt's even going to get that opportunity.
That may be controversial, but I'm not taking Kareem Hunt at all. I don't care how many picks you give me. Kareem Hunt's not going to be on the board, and he shouldn't be drafted. You can't draft a guy. You literally can't draft a guy who's going to sit for 9 games because he's going to sit on your bench. He's going to sit on your bench for 8 games and a bye week. Probably 9. So 9 games of the NFL season. You can't waste, unless you're in a super deep league, you can't waste a spot like that.
I don't have a problem with anybody drafting him. You have to be smart if you're going to draft him.
Hey, you draft him and waste your bench spot, and I'll pick up the guys that actually are playing as we go, while you just sit that guy on the bench. I mean,
well, and like I said, you have to be solid. In my opinion, if you're going to take him, you have to be solid at the running back position. You have to take a running back. You have to take at least 2 running backs in the first 3 rounds if you're going to draft him, in my opinion. Otherwise, you're going to do exactly what Jason said. You're going to put him on your bench. He's going to sit there for 9 weeks. And then there's even a question mark on his opportunity share when he comes back after 9 weeks. Legitimately, he may not even be used. And I get the talent of Kareem Hunt. We've seen how awesome he was in Kansas City. That was an Andy Reid offense. We know how Andy Reid is with his running backs. He makes them all look good. That's why that is one of the main reasons Damian Williams is going in the 5th round. It's not because Damian Williams' talent is a 5th round pick. It's the opportunity that he's potentially going to get in a Andy Reid offense. Andy Reid just makes his running backs look so much better than what their talent level is. Going to a new situation, there is a lead dog already there. It's just there's no guarantee Kareem Hunt's going to get you anything.
All right, so Mike, your first 5 picks were Devontae Adams, James Conner, Kerryon Johnson, Marlon Mack, and Chris Godwin. Can you tell me one thing you would do differently and how you feel overall about those first 5 picks?
Being that it was an auto, the first one, Kamara would have been my guy, but I feel like I adapted pretty quick. I really actually like that lineup. I think I could make that work and do some damage with it. Yeah,
and let me say, if you had taken Kamara, you likely are looking for a wide receiver in the 2nd round. And, your choices coming back were Keenan Allen, Tyreek Hill, AJ Green. I actually like Devontae Adams and then James Conner better than I'd like Kamara and any of those wide receivers. So I think it worked out to your advantage a little bit. Is there, besides that, anything you would have done different?
No, I think I like this draft. I think this is how I'm planning on drafting in the future as well. I got a lot of guys on this team where I got them, and I'm going to try to continue that, hopefully all the way into the season.
All right, and George, Michael Thomas, Dalvin Cook, Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen, and Damian Williams rounding out your top 5. Anybody there that you would do different?
Yeah, we discussed it. Brandon Cooks was an auto draft. I would definitely flip him with T.Y. Hilton. And I think that's really the only thing I would do different. I actually like the team that I ended up getting. Michael Thomas at 110, I think is awesome. Love Dalvin Cook's opportunity coming into this year. I would have T.Y. Hilton and Adam Thielen, both PPR monsters, followed up by Damian Williams. So I'm set with 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs and a flex. And I like the way the rest of the draft shook out for me. So I'm thrilled with it. I loved what I was able to do.
Before we move on out of this mock draft, is there anything on here that we haven't talked about that's a real head scratcher for you?
Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, Chris, towards the end there, I thought this guy hated the Patriots, but...
Yeah, I don't know. So I think he's actually a closet Patriots fan, kind of like I was a closet Browns fan. And listen, I'm going to have to ask him about the Gronkowski pick because dude is retired, and the Josh Gordon pick because dude is still suspended as last I checked. But his quarterback, so in the 10th round, Chris went with Tom Brady, 11th round, Josh Gordon, 12th round, Rob Gronkowski, and then I guess he's backing up Brady with Danny Etling just in case something should happen. I don't know. But he took 4 straight Patriots, which kind of surprised me. I didn't believe what I was seeing.
Right, yeah. Just a shocker. Just a shocker. I did not see that one coming.
Jason, was there anything in the draft you seen stuck out?
I don't know. It amazes me still that quarterbacks go early. That's a thing I'm going to keep telling people. Like, Patrick Mahomes is great, don't get me wrong. He's not worth the 2nd round pick. Andrew Luck is great, don't get me wrong. He's not worth the 3rd round pick. The second quarterback last season was Matt Ryan, went 10-6. Right? There's value at the position, people. Deshaun Watson went in the 5th. Carson Wentz went in the 7th. There's value at the back of the draft.
I was smiling all the way to the 10th round where I took Drew Brees. I'm more than happy to take Drew Brees in the 10th round in any draft.
Yeah, that's a hell of a value right there.
Listen, Jameis Winston went in the 10th. He had very good fantasy games last year. He's got arguably a better offensive coach this year who says they can fix him. Jameis Winston is going to be a good pick, and especially in the 10th round.
4 of the 5 quarterbacks that went in the 10th round in this draft were quarterback ones last year. Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, Matt Ryan, Drew Brees. If I'm not mistaken, they were all top 12 quarterbacks in the 12th round, in the 10th round. Insane. There's no reason you're taking these quarterbacks early. The value above replacement just scratches my head. I could not take a quarterback in the 2nd or 3rd round. The earliest I would ever consider a quarterback is in the 5th round.
Okay, guys, I guess that's going to wrap it up for this draft. I mean, man, it's never too early to start mocking. I know I have a lot of fun with these. Now, we're also doing something here, guys. Let's get out there and get us some reviews out there. For every 5-star review you leave one of our shows, either Sleeper Wire, Dynasty Wire, or Break from the Grind, it gets you 1 entry. So you can get 3 entries if you leave 5-star reviews on all 3 of those.
You're going to have your choice of a Adam Thielen, Le'Veon Bell, or Aaron Jones signed jersey from Pristine Auction. Leave a review, take a screenshot of that review, and tweet it to the @SleeperWire handle with the hashtag SleeperWireReview. We're going to be running this for a few weeks, and then what we will do is we will randomly select a winner. And if you were the winner, like I said, you get to pick your jersey of an Adam Thielen, Lev Bell, or Aaron Jones autographed jersey. Help us out with the reviews. They mean a lot to us. What I think we're also going to start doing is going back and reading the reviews here on the show. So if you leave a review, there's an opportunity there where you also get a shout out on the show. And it helps the Sleeper Wire show. It helps the Break from the Grind. It helps the Dynasty Wire. We put a lot of time and effort into this, and the reviews help us out tremendously. Enter the contest, leave a 5-star review, tweet it to @SleeperWire with the hashtag SleeperWireReview, and you could win a jersey.
Guys, that's going to do it for us this evening. Make sure you follow us at the Sleeper Wire show. You can follow me at Dirty Jobs 21 on Twitter. You can follow me Dirty Jobs basically anywhere. George, Jason, where can they find you guys?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at BFTG Pod. You can find me on the Sleeper app where I am at BFTGEO.
You can find me on Twitter at FL Dr. Milbarge. You can find me on the Fantasy Life at Dr. Mill. You can find me on Sleeper at BFTG Dr. Mill. And you can find George and I on Break from the Grind, BFTGpodcast.com.
And make sure you stay tuned, guys, because we got a lot of stuff happening in this offseason. We got Fantasy Football University. We got the Draft Genius out there cranking out his madness. So if you've got Dynasty questions, he is your guy. So make sure you stay tuned. We'll be back next week, and you guys have a wonderful weekend.